kata-kata hidrogen, BSS, smart grid. Nah, jadi untuk kali ini teknologi-teknologi tersebut akan dikupas pada sesi panel diskusi ini dengan tema teknologi baru untuk transisi energi. Kebutuhan energi yang bersih dan berkelanjutan dalam menghadapi krisis iklim global telah memunculkan minat dalam mengembangkan teknologi alternatif. Dalam konteks ini, teknologi hidrogen, BESS, supergrid, dan bioenergi muncul sebagai beberapa solusi inovatif. Diskusi panel kali ini mendatangkan para ahli dari tiap teknologi tersebut untuk memaparkan perspektif mereka dan berdiskusi mengenai perkembangan serta potensi dan risiko penerapan tiap teknologi di Indonesia. Tanpa memperpanjang waktu, langsung saja kita undang moderator pada sesi ini, Bapak Satrio Suwandiko Prilianto, selaku GIZ Energy Program Advisor. Selanjutnya, kami undang para panelis. Yang pertama, Ibu Kamia Handayani, selaku EVP of Energy Transition and Sustainability PT PLN Persero. Selamat datang, Ibu. Selanjutnya, kami undang Ibu Pranitya Swastiastu, VP Business Development of Low Carbon Solution and Future Business, PT Pertamina Power Indonesia. Silakan menuju ke panggung. Selamat datang, Ibu. Dan kita juga ada panelis yang bergabung secara online. Mungkin bisa dicek apakah sudah terhubung panitia, panelis-panelis kita yang bergabung secara online. Mungkin bisa sekalian ditampilkan. Yang pertama ada Bapak Adhika Widya Paraga, Team Leader Hydrogen Study of PSE UGM, lalu Ketua Asosiasi Biogas Indonesia, Bapak M. Abdul Kholik, dan yang terakhir pendiri National Battery Research Institute.
Researcher from BRI, Professor Dr. Reynald Ekvi Kartini. And I'd like to hand over the floor to Mr. Satrio. Thank you, Ibu Dini. Welcome to all distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We, Prof. Ovi, Mr. Abdul Olik, who is present online, they are together with me now, and we have Ibu Prima and Ibu Kamia. First of all, please introduce myself. My name is Satrio. You can call me Satrio. I'm advisor from GIZ. Welcome to all of you. And my apology, there is a kind of a technical error, so this session is a little bit delayed. With your permission, before we begin the session, I'd like to open it with a rhyme. At morning, we go to Kempinski, and then we stop by in Grand Indonesia. Welcome in the discussion session, New Technology for Energy Transition. In this session, as mentioned by Ibu Dini, that we will discuss about emerging technologies or new technology. The relatively new technology that to be implemented in Indonesia to support the energy transition. So there are 4 technologies here that represent the technology from generation, supply, and downstreaming, super grid, smart green, battery, and hydrogen, green hydrogen in this case. For this session, we have Mr. Adhika Widya Praga, who will give presentation about the overview about the 4 technologies. And the panelists who are present today will give information about the status of the development of those technologies and the opportunity and challenge from the implementer's perspective. Without further ado, please, Mr. Andika, the floor is yours. Thank you, Mr. Satrio. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Prof. Evi, Ibu Prima, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
Review ya untuk emerging technologies ini. Jadi specifically biogas, smart grid ya, smart grid dan battery dan hydrogen. Mungkin slide-nya bisa ditampilkan. Oh ya, oke. Next please. Ya mungkin teknologi pertama yang akan kita bahas ya untuk energy generation ya, jadi biogas. Jadi mungkin kita semua cukup familiar dengan biogas ya. Jadi biogas itu naturally occurring ya, ya gas yang muncul dari dekomposisi material organik ya. Dan ini cukup menarik karena konten dari methane itu cukup tinggi ya, 50 sampai
And is relatively high, 50 to 70%, so it can be used as energy. And it comes up from agriculture sector as an end product, but we can get it also from industrial waste or household waste. It's interesting that Indonesia has a lot of waste, and there are some are solid, and we have the off-taker for liquid like wastewater or foaming palm oil. It's quite prospective, and there is a kind of chart here on how it can be processed to be upgraded to become electricity.
cafe. Terus kemudian Bali Lombok ya 150 cafe. Jadi ini kalau misalkan kita bisa buat agar sebuah smart grid bekerja sama gitu ya, itu akan sangat baik ya untuk dapat distributed VRA system di Indonesia. Next please. Oke, jadi untuk challenges-nya ya, jadi sistem kita sekarang ini sangat dependent fossil fuel gitu ya, dan kita ada low predictability ya untuk generation open demand. Terus current sistem di Indonesia itu minimum energy storage gitu ya, dan tidak ada national integrated grid. Dan kita tidak ada smart metering system dan sekarang ini masih closed market. Cuman memang opportunity-nya cukup banyak untuk mengembangkan ya smart grid ini. Jadi kita bisa optimize adopsi renewables karena ya special yang intermittent ya. Kemudian bisa energy saving, terus kemudian flexible system, dan ini bisa self healing sama ada participant encouragement ya untuk private sama residential sectors. Next please, oke. Oke, teknologi berikutnya adalah battery gitu ya. Jadi baterai ini adalah prevailing technology untuk electric energy storage gitu ya. Jadi dulu kita punya lead acid battery ya untuk kendaraan gitu ya. Lama-lama kita mengembangkan energi rechargeable ya, dari nickel cadmium, nickel metal hydride gitu ya. Nah sekarang best available teknologinya lithium ion gitu ya, untuk memperoleh energy density yang paling baik gitu ya. Terus saja ada trade off antara specific power, specific energy, cost ya, safety gitu ya. Namun ini semakin lama semakin besar ya power density maupun energy density-nya ya. Jadi harapannya apalagi beberapa perusahaan kayak seperti Toyota mengembangkan solid state battery ya. Jadi ada banyak potensi ke depannya untuk teknologi baterai. Next please.
Maaf Pak Dika, boleh dipercepat sedikit Pak?
Yes. Oke, siap. Oke, dan kita tahu bisa digunakan di berbagai macam hal gitu ya. Jadi BESS itu adalah battery energy storage system maupun untuk kendaraan, portable storage dan sebagainya.
Recording in progress.
Itu pada high pressure gitu ya. Mungkin itu dari kami sedikit overview mengenai empat teknologi ini. Nanti akan
About this technology, and it will be continued by the panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Adika, for your presentation. We have seen overview about the four technologies. The main challenge is time, because time is quite limited to explain the four technologies, so it is relatively difficult for you experts from each technology. The first, I'd like to give time for Mr. Muhammad Abdul Kholik, who joined us online. Pak Kholik, are you able to listen to my voice? Yes, can. Thank you. Can you show the slide? Maybe participant later can see from and ask question based on my presentation. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Muhammad Abdul Kholik, the Director of Environment Policy from BRIN. This is one of the field that one of the things that we discuss in our department is about energy, mineral, and mining. I'm the head of the association in Indonesia. Continue, because we all know that in one of the output in G20, energy transition is one of the things that we are going to do. Why bioenergy? My apology, this is quite wide, not only biogas, because I'm preparing based on the requested title. It's about bioenergy. Biogas will be discussed as well, but please discuss more about biogas. Why bioenergy is important for the reduction of the greenhouse effect? Because it is very practical, not 100% practical. It's neutral carbon, because the carbon that is used, burned or made or used is based on the photosynthesis by capturing CO2 from the air. CO2 and the burn, and from the air we capture again. It's different by using fossil fuel. Oil, gas, and coal, we release carbon, and it is already absorbed by the earth. For biogas, this is another special issue. It has been mentioned earlier that this is a natural process. If the waste of organic industry, if it is only implemented in the pond only, then it will release methane. So this is the greenhouse effect that should be reduced. So when it is used, the methane can be captured, so we don't release it to the nature, but it is used and it reduces the consumption of fossil fuel. So there is the benefit in reducing emission. Second, if it is not processed, it will pollute the water environment. So there are many aspects. Now I talk about another bioenergy before we talk more about biogas. Our biodiesel strategy is really good. My presentation shows about India, about energy transition before 8. We are quite confident for biodiesel. We are better than other countries, including India. For bioethanol, we are not better than India. Bioafter, we are similar with India. I'll tell you why. We are in B30, approaching B35 and B40. This is the old development from BBT, BPKS, or IOPRI in Medan, and beforehand, in the next level, and until becoming big industry, they're moving to that direction. This is the insulate capacity in Indonesia. The capacity is relatively big. Some is exported. Bioethanol is still up and down. What I heard from Bioenergy Directorate of EBTK ESDM, they are trying to improve it, and Pertamina is trying to go to that direction, continue. The next challenge is how we can use biomass, second generation of bioethanol, by using cellulo, semi-cellulo, and others that is wasted as a waste. This is about biogasoline. This is from biohydrocarbon. So biodiesel, the cell is different, but the chemical nature is similar. But biohydrocarbon, the material is coming from bio, but the cell is the same like if it is from the fuel. Like we have what we call benza or palm oil gasoline. This is bioafter, including biohydrocarbon. The closest one to make it is by using nucleus coconut oil or palm oil. We compete with food as well, like coconut oil. It is categorized as food, so it is restricted. There is an idea to use the reject. This is the development that is done by Bandung Institute of Technology. There are some facility in Garuda, owned by Garuda. You can Google this, and we have flying test by using commercial flight, 2.4%. And related parties is MEMR, Bandung Institute of Technology, Garuda Indonesia, and others. This another form of bioenergy, we have biomass coal firing to reduce and or biomass for power plant. By using biomass power generation, it can produce heat as well as steam, and it can produce electricity used by the respective industry. Mr. Abdul Holik, could you please accelerate? Thank you. There are many materials for biogas, not only palm oil, but cassava. I have already asked for anticipation. If I can share, I can do it directly without having to wait. This is an example of biogas. This is the big ones. We have cooperation between BRIN and PTPN. And this is biogas plant, upgrading unit. It is, the CO2 is separated and to become biomethane, and it is compressed become compressed biomethane. This is the development of biogas. We have co-dedication to add organics, and it can be anticipated, so the fluctuation is less. And another use for electricity and others can be implemented as well. This is the treatment, and this is research from ITB team together with BPPT, and it's grade 5 until root tests from biomethane produced by water scrubber technology. This is the mid-scale domestic industry. For the from Directorate Bioenergy, we have the figure 52,000. It's quite a pride for us. If we see it from other countries, India target is only 65,000 units. So 50,000 so far, 52,000 so far. But in India is 65,000 per year, while we have 52,000 per year. Next slide. Continue. This is India. So this is the example of the small scale, similar what has been explained. And continue. This is what we do from other market, and we cooperate with PT Commerce Indonesia. We process their kitchen waste because they are determined to reduce emission. They will do anything, especially the waste from their factory. It is converted into electricity, including PV and biogas from their kitchen waste. That's all, some enrichment from me. My apologies should there be any wrongdoing. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It is very interesting. We can see that biogas is very scalable. It can start from household level, neighborhood level, or community level up until the industry or plant level. So I think it is quite flexible if Indonesia can continue to develop biogas, and we see that the potential is huge in Indonesia. Indonesia as an agriculture country have a huge potential. Now, I would like to get input from Ms. Kamia, who sits next to me, with regard to the smart grid and super grid technology. Okay, thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you to PLN for inviting us in this event. So can I start? So perhaps before moving on to the super grid technology, I would like to explain the context first why super grid and smart grid is needed in BLN, our national electricity company, because PLN also has the target to achieve net zero emission by 2060. And there are technology that we need to adopt so that we can achieve that net zero emission target by 2060. Now, in the effort to achieve net zero emission, to implement energy transition, from the energy side, we have to consider the three main objectives in providing electricity. So to deliver electricity, it has to be secure and reliable. And this can be addressed by the technology. We have to make sure that the emerging technology able to maintain security of supply of electricity, and that's one of the important objectives of providing electricity. Second of all, it has to be affordable in terms of the prices. So emerging technology, usually in the early stage, when it's still in pilot stage, in small scale stage, it's still expensive, but when it is adopted at scale, at large scale, and slowly, it will be affordable. And the third one, which currently becoming one of the priorities, is how to ensure that the electricity provision is considering the environmental sustainability aspect. Now PLN, because PLN as a corporate, we have to, because we are a corporation, we have to make sure that our financial condition are also healthy. So when we adopt new energy, when we perform energy transition, when we use new technologies, including smart grid and super grid, we have to make sure that our financial health also are maintained. Now, one thing about transmission or super grid, we call it green enabling transmission line, because transmission is needed to transfer renewable energy to the demand center, because renewable energy has different nature with fossil fuel or fossil energy. If we want to build coal or gas power plant, we can build it close to the demand center. Let's say the demand comes from urban areas, so the plant can be built relatively close to the urban areas, and especially for gas relatively easier. And the primary energy can be transported to that location. But when we talk about renewable energy, especially for base load, which we hope can replace the gas or coal power plant because the source continuously available, like geothermal or hydro, the plant can only be built in specific location, and usually and often the location are far from the demand center. So supergrid is the critical enabler to move those renewable energy to go to the demand center. However, because transmission line is an infrastructure, therefore, from the economic point of view, is not really attractive, and that is why transmission line built by PLN and the loan coming from concessional loan, which is the low interest loan. So it's a bit difficult to make it commercial if renewable energy can still be built by the private sector and can obtain a good and attractive IRR. However, for transmission, it's a bit challenging in terms of land acquisition. It also has social risk as well when building transmission line. So this to illustrate what kind of support needed to perform energy transition. So I'm gonna focus on the technical enablers aspect. Supergrid and smart grid are two technologies that we need to become to become key enablers to go ahead with the energy transition, and also other low carbon technology like CCS, hydrogen, that already explained in the beginning. Now, this is the illustration on how electricity system can move renewable energy from the source to the demand center. Now, what already connected is between Java and Bali. So the demand center in Indonesia is concentrated in Java and Bali. Around 75% of the national electricity company comes from Java and Bali. Now, the source of renewable energy in Java and Bali, especially in baseload, over time it will be finished, like hydro and geothermal. That is why we need to move energy from sources outside Java Island. We will start by interconnecting it between Java and Sumatra, as mentioned in the first presentation, and in the long run, there will be interconnection with other islands. Previously, already explained about smart grid. So, if we would like to adopt large-scale VRE or variable renewable energy. So there are two type renewable energy. The first one is base load. So energy that is reliable because it is continuously almost every time it is available. Hydro, yes, it is continuously available, but on certain season it potential can reduce. Geothermal is very for geothermal. Now that can be used for base load, but there are other renewable energy that has intermittency characteristic. So it is fluctuative. When we are faced with this fluctuation, previously this fluctuation only happened in the demand center, but now happen in supply side. Therefore, we need a smarter grid than the conventional grid that exists already. Now, this is something that we try to build in order to adopt a bigger portion of renewable energy in the future. Now, based on the hybrid and super grid, we would be able to improve to increase the renewable scale from only 5 gigawatt in the beginning, but by strengthening the grid, but also from the power plant utilization, and the end customer will also be advanced metering infrastructure. Now, those infrastructure will help to adopt more that goes to system from 2023 until 2040 may reach 28 gigawatt. I think that will be all from my side about the topic that we are discussing today. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much, Miss Camilla, for delivering the presentation that was very good. So, for super grid and smart grid is serve as key enablers. I see them as key enablers in order to improve the renewable energy portion in the energy mix. And they are usually called variable renewable energy. Now, from the calculation that you just done, the VRE can improve, can increase up until 28 gigawatt. It is very interesting. Now, we are now going to the third panelist, Professor Epi. Are you connected, Professor Epi? Am I audible? Yes, I am connected. Can you hear me as well? Yes, we can hear you very well. So please provide your responses about the battery development status in Indonesia and perhaps explaining the challenges and opportunity of developing battery in Indonesia. Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. Congratulations to Indonesia Sustainable Energy Week. And I am a researcher working in the Indonesian Research and Innovation Agency, and I also commissioner and founder in PT Infinity Indonesia, a battery company. So briefly, why Enberta is established. Now, this is an independent institute that focuses on battery and renewable energy because this is the biggest challenge that we are faced in implementing energy transition. Now, in the beginning of the establishment, we were supported by Global Challenge Fund by Professor Allen. That is why he also one of the co-founders. Our vision and mission is how we can gather all Indonesian stakeholders in battery research and production, not only in battery but also renewable. Well, again, not only the government but also industry and researcher. And this is done to address the challenges in the battery. That is the challenges of the challenges that battery face in Indonesia and globally. And some of our activities, we have cross-border countries. We work with future future battery Australia, and also with UK. We also have collaboration with Thailand, Philippines, Singapore, and Malaysia, and also with other regulatory agency. And one of our visions is how we gather all of the stakeholders. When we talk about battery, it's not only about battery cell, but we have to talk from the upstream to downstream. The upstream is about the raw material, about nickel manufacture, and the application in renewable energy in AV, up until the standardization and so on and so forth. So this is what we recently did in the beginning of August. Next slide. Whereby during this summit, around 170 industries attended coming from 12 countries. So in this summit, we really talk about battery, but battery from the mining up until the human resources. Because when we talk about battery, it has to be done in holistically. So we could gather all people and see and identify how many can produce or can become the producers. Now, what is the role of battery or storage. What is the role of battery in the national energy transition program? Now, we all understand about sustainable development goals. There are 17 goals. And during the Paris Agreement, next slide, please, our president or Indonesia is committed to accelerate one of the aspects of Paris Agreement through a presidential regulation year 2019 or number 55. So increasing the energy efficiency in the transportation sector. So this regulation is about expediting the utilization of electric vehicle, and we would like to achieve around 14 million by 2030 for two-wheelers and 4 million for four-wheelers. Next slide, please. So what is the correlation between transportation and decarbonization? So 16% of CO2 contributor comes from transportation sector. Therefore, if most of this can change into electric vehicle, and it will automatically reduce the carbon dioxide. So battery is enable decarbonization in the transportation sector. And here, batteries are key technology to achieve Paris Agreement and support to the UN SDGs, because there are many rural areas that still lack of energy. Maybe we can use renewable. However, to address intermittent, we need to install storage. So during the daytime, we can rely on sun, wind, but it has to store because there will be new industry and there will be new technology that we have to prepare and be anticipated. So the impact of the battery industry to Indonesia economy will improve the state revenue and also the labor. However, and also the labor, but I will explain to you which labor that I am referring to. However, or regardless, we need to prepare new technology for the battery. Bottom line, batteries are core technology to realize this energy transition and broaden energy access around the world. So battery, we cannot say EV if it doesn't have battery. So we cannot say battery without we cannot say renewable without battery. So battery is also a key success factor in achieving the energy transition. So what are the opportunities in sustainable industry? I'm going to focus on three things here. Next, please. Let me go to the next slide, please. So the first of all, we are rich with nickel. We have abundant resources of nickel, and investment continue to increase. Why? Why investment continue to increase for nickel? Because nickel is one of the materials that really needed, as mentioned by Mr. Andika. So the bigger the nickel content is, the bigger the capacity is. So we have nickel reserved by 2.7 million metric tons and the largest in the world. However, this is not sufficient. If we only have nickel ore, and what for? So I informed in CNBC, I told them that only nickel will not be enough to make Indonesia to become the king of global battery producers. So nickel need to be processed to become nickel sulfur and become basalt, and then change into precursor. And from that precursor, we still need other countries to combine it with lithium before it can become a battery. But the added value here, from ore to precursor, it can take 30 times and 50 times. So the key, Indonesia can become the king of battery if Indonesia able to process nickel ore into become battery material. And where are the applications? So the battery demand, starting from the small scale for us, for our portable device, and also house, and also train, and industry, and also for floating generation. and it is very supportive. So battery becoming one the technological key. So we have talked about nickel. We have source of energy as mentioned by the previous speakers. But if we go to solar energy in Indonesia, it has 207 gigawatt capacity, but we only use so it is so the utilization is still very low. So the potential is still very huge. But we have to learn from other countries. For example, in Australia, Australia provide incentive for residential that installed solar panel. So in here we have PLN. You can consider about this if we want to achieve total renewable. And so, however, okay, we have power in the daytime, but during the nighttime, we don't have source. So if you have more energy, if you have excess energy, you can put it in the power wall, and you can use it during nighttime. And if it is off grid, it's not connected to PLN, then we have to create storage. And where the storage can come from, it is from the form in the form of batteries. Next slide, please. And we also have cooperation with Komatsu as far as innovation is concerned. So the material are changing from lead acid into lead lithium. So if it lead acid only can be used for 1 until 2 years, but with lithium battery, it can last for more than 5 years. If it's LFP, it can last for 8 years. And we also try to apply this innovation in the Basarnas ship. So electrification using batteries. So at least electrification for the air conditioner, for the refrigerator, and the electricity can use solar energy, while the motor are still run by diesel. So at the moment we have 16 boats that we are installing solar panel. Can you expedite your presentation? Yes, of course. And this is also important, the transportation sector. If you can go to the next slide. So if we see EV battery, if we open it, it comprised of thousands of small batteries. So this battery serve as a source of energy and it contain nickel. Next slide. And then besides batteries, we are very interested because in Indonesia what are massive is two wheels. So we try to understand the battery utilization coming or used by those two vehicles. So what we understand in the current situation, this is the battery pack that used by two-wheelers. There are 13 brands in Indonesia and they are not yet standardized. Okay, they have standard from the Indonesian national standard, but no standard for volume. So they have different volume, different output, and the weight, and so on and so forth. And also it happened in battery swapping facilities. So PLN need to pay attention to this, and the same goes to PLN, so that there will be uniformity. So we don't have to pick and choose, and this is what becoming the issue. Standardization for two-wheeled battery pack. So standard is needed. Indonesia needs standard so that, like going to Pertamina, if you want to fill your tank, you can use any fuel that are available there. And we are now testing the battery pack that is available in the market. So it turns out if we test it, it is still below the manufacturer standard. So we need to pay attention. And most of the batteries are imported in the form of packs. Next slide. And we need to be careful. And this is safety concern, performance stance, and safety concern. If you're not being cautious, there is risk. If one of them failure, it can cause thermal runaway. So we need to raise awareness about the safety aspect to the user and the provider. And this is the cases, many issues if you don't be careful handling batteries. And to think about standardization, last Monday we invite Ministry of Industry, National Standard Agency, Battery Association, and to discuss where Indonesia should go. And this is the deputy from BSN. So we have to make sure we need to have a consensus among all in battery industry players on and deciding which direction Indonesia will go to. And we also invited representatives from Korea as a benchmark. And lastly, about human resources. This is important. This is the top of the mountain that we need to educate to be ready for this transition. Not only about merely the transition, but we have to have a leading human resources. So we also organize trainings from upstream, and we also train lecturer for developing their skill, and also we provide training to the industry because not so many understand the the battery is. So it is participated by Pertamina and IBC, and this is what we did. We organized last week. So Sukovindo, PT Surveyor Indonesia, they need to perform the testing, the standard testing. So I believe this kind of training is very important. Next slide, please. And the last one, at the moment, that is why I cannot attend directly. There is an industrial training specifically for PT, PLN, Persero. So after done many discussion, Ibu Handayani, they are very happy, Ibu Handayani, because battery is important and they need to learn, and we invite the experts to teach them about the batteries. What will happen when it is installed, what kind of standard testing need to be performed. I think that will be all from my side. And lastly, thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, thank you, Professor Effie. It is very extraordinary, very extensive what Professor Effie has done and colleague from MBRI has done. So in here, I would like to draw several important points that one of the main point in developing battery in Indonesia, we need to be ready with the human resources. And also, stakeholder cooperation is very crucial as well. If we see a battery industry like country in Indonesia that try to become a leader in the battery manufacturer in the world, we need to have a good connection from upstream to downstream, from the mining activities up until the human resources. So thank you so much, Professor Effie. And for the last one, we have with us Miss Prima. Miss Prima is from PT Pertamina Power Indonesia. So Ibu Prima, over to you to provide your opinion about hydrogen development in Indonesia.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm present on behalf of my supervisor because he cannot attend this meeting. We will be talking about the energy transition. Hydrogen is one of the initiatives that is done by Pertamina. I will tell you in the presentation. As the background, why we select hydrogen. Due to the recent development where people is concerned about net zero emission and decarbonization, the focus is we will focus on electricity mostly. So we are seeking something that already exists, but we explore it further, like hydrogen. So we will have a discussion. We have discussion about hydro and wind farm. We see in Southeast Asia, we used to talk about onshore wind. We now talk about offshore wind. In Indonesia, we have onshore wind. We are talking now about solar PV. So we focus on the development of hydrogen. What we call green hydrogen. Based on the market in general, there are some initiatives in Europe and in United States. The closest in Indonesia. There are several showcases in Thailand. Some some made hydrogen for transportation. Even in Singapore, they already said that they're gonna use hydrogen for their power plant. So even in South Asia, hydrogen is talked about and implemented in some industries. Pertamina has already applied hydrogen, for example, in refinery and some power plant that needs hydrogen for the power generation. What we are trying to introduce again is green hydrogen and the use of hydrogen in several fields like in transportation. Some industries that are relatively difficult to be decarbonized, for example, refinery, it requires a stable electricity. We cannot just all of a sudden use solar power plant. So this combination should be thought about. And then another option is to replace the materials that use, in this case, is the hydrogen itself. Some refinery in Pertamina still uses SMR from natural gas. We would like to see whether green hydrogen can be used. Where are we going to get the hydrogen? We got it from farmers. In terms of shipping, we know that green ammonia can be already be used, but hydrogen still needs study. But this is something that we are seeking for. And then vehicles. It can be used for truck or forklift in the factory, in the manufacture area. So we will be talking later in the slide. To develop green hydrogen, as it is, we cannot say that this is a new stuff. In our area, we have done it, and this is quite an old technology, but we focus now because it is now needed and it can become an option for decarbonization, especially for industry that cannot do decarbonization independently. Why we talk about technology, even though the technology is already old, but this is actually something that is quite new. So we try to make the capex more competitive. We are trying to see other options that can be done and how to compete with the price. The users are not aware about decarbonization, so we have to do it step by step. We cannot do it immediately. So at certain point of time, hydrogen can be used step by step because the price can be competitive in the future. Green hydrogen that is new as the new technology and will be implemented in Indonesia. We have seen several aspects that can be used and can be assisted by many parties. So in the next couple of years, the price can be more competitive than green hydrogen. Why I'm continuing talking about competitiveness in pricing, I'll tell you later. Talking about financing, the question will be whether the technology is proven or not. So to discuss it with the lender, we have to convince them that the market is sustainable, so it can be accepted. We hope that in the future it will be efficient, that the production will be good, and the price can be cheaper. Next is capacity building in Indonesia. For several hydrogen have been used by industry. what we are trying to bring about here is the use for transportation. There is hydrogen transportation, but they bring their own hydrogen, but not use as fuel for the vehicle. So we are talking to some ministries to make sure about the safety guidance in Indonesia, because overseas there is already ISO system that we can adapt, but we need to have a further discussion for its implementation in the area, that in the wider area, not only as a pilot project. Time is up, I think. So Pertamina is not just focusing on hydrogen for as energy transition. We also talk about CCUS. There is battery. We have an IBC, the subsidiary of PLN. The subsidiary of Pertamina is the combination of PLN, Mine ID, and for carbon trading that was just launched by IDX. Pertamina also play its role in selling the carbon. For the renewable energy, we focus in several areas like solar power plant and also geothermal, which is done by APGE. For hydrogen activity, we have initiated some projects, including some pilot projects. This is a project that is done by Pertamina internally. We are trying to switch green energy from geothermal, which will be used by the Pertamina refinery in Pelaju. They have used gray, and we try to switch to green. In this discussion, there are several calculations in the project. The price is relatively cheaper. Gray is cheaper than green. If we, let alone if we think about hydrogen, especially if we made it for geothermal, maybe the use is not flexible, while geothermal has a long, far location. So we need to think about how to transport the hydrogen to the customer, and we have to do it safely. And in Jakarta, it's about mobility. This is the hydrogen for public transportation, or I mean truck or logistic, and it will be expanded to passenger car. The use at the moment can be implemented in Pertamina. There are several things that we have done, so we are trying to see the performance. Now, it is still in the pre-construction phase, and we see which location that is suitable for this by considering several aspects, safety in the area. About power plant, in Singapore is the closest one. There are several power plant that we are exporting also hydrogen, and we try to cooperate also. We have cooperation also with PLN, so we can transport the hydrogen to Singapore. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ibu Prima, for your presentation and for your response. So hydrogen has been taken into account in the global market. Hydrogen can be perceived as the step of decarbonization. Based on the information from the perspective of Pertamina, some bottlenecks that occur, that there is the competitive financing required, and in terms of technology advancement funding, Indonesia still doesn't have the technology, even though you mentioned that hydrogen technology is not the very new technology. And then in terms of capacity building, we have to think about the human resources. My apology, I cannot give an opportunity for audience to ask question because time is up. But I'll just give one opportunity for those who would like to ask question. The gentleman at the front, please. Thank you. First, to Mr. Muhammad Dulholik. I know he has been dealing with bioenergy for a long time. Just a recommendation, because the constraints that is faced by SME, the developer in the field, is about equity. There is no existence of the capital. So even feasibility study is not even sufficient. So could you please think in the future how the role of the government or the donor country, maybe they can help to make the capable feasibility study. So when the banks see the proposal of the development of biogas in a far area, like in the secluded area, there should be an assessment that is done by the expert. Number two, for Professor Effie, my apology. I'm very happy that you have already done so many assessment in electricity, in batteries. We have a competition also. If the hydrogen technology is successful, then we can use it as the fuel. How do you collaborate so we do not compete? So maybe we have to strengthen each other, because battery has problem also. When 3 or 5 years, where are we going to throw the lithium waste? Should we recycle it or we just throw it in the garbage? So we would like to hear from the researchers on how to use the battery. And then for PLN, you would like to develop smart grid, whatever the name is. But in reality, there is no interconnection of grid from South Sumatra to Java. The idea is already existing since 10 years ago. So from Muara Enim to Java. Uh, so grid never appears. So oversupply, there is an oversupply in Java and Bali, about 2%. So we cannot sell electricity anywhere, especially from Sumatra to Kalimantan and Kalimantan to Java. The source is a lot in Kalimantan. So, but the burden will be in Java to evacuate from there. Maybe it is not possible if there is no infrastructure. How is your strategy? Are you talking to Bapanas or are you talking to MEMR so the ideal can be realized? If not, then the renewable energy sources like in Papua and Tebe cannot be evacuated to Java Island, while the absorption of the energy in the eastern part is very small because most of the industry are located in Java. Until now, it's not surprising that our energy mix target that was supposed 23%, I see the presentation in the morning is only 13%. It is impossible for us to add 10% within 1 year. It is the fact in the field. So demand and supply, which one is going first? Are we waiting for the demand to increase or the other way around? If there is no subsidy or intervention from the state, I think it is impossible. And we realize that our state budget is very limited. So the situation is quite dilemmatic. So how should we do it? Maybe you can make some breakthrough assisted by a donor country like Germany or from Europe. Last, Ibu Prima, about hydrogen. Your inform for FYI, it is not a rocket scientist technology. When I was in junior high school, I just put the anoda and cathoda into water, and then I can give you a reference. They make it themselves. They make it in the thermostat. They got the energy from the battery that is installed in front of the car. So the hydrogen gas is channeled in a pipe and injected in a manifold into the engine. Either it is Toyota, it has been tested. About 23 cars have been used. But there is no approval yet from the ministry because the prerequisites is very tight. There should be emission tests, and they don't have money to do it. And then it is tested. They tested it from Banu Surabaya. He said there is a data. He saved for about 4% from 1 million to purchase gasoline. But with the technology that he blends with the gas that he made, and he start the engine, it doesn't require gasoline because he used hydrogen. So he can save for about 40%. It is opportunity if they are assisted or they are facilitated. Maybe Pertamina can collaborate. So small cars for uh, public transport can be assisted without having to use EV because we will not have if so we don't need battery. That's all from me. Assalamualaikum. What's your name, sir? Mr. Erwin Kasim from Conservation Energy Society. Mr. Erwin. Mr. Erwin refers to all panelists. Mr. Abdul Holik and Ibu Prima is more to the providing input and information. Professor Effie, there is a question. Professor, about potential competition with hydrogen. How should we do that in order for us not to compete? And what about after use treatment? How do you recycle? Professor? Thank you for the question. I think it's not competitive because the development of biocell and the development of battery is still similar in Indonesia. The battery is only now. The development is only now. How we place all in their right place, because if we would like to achieve renewable energy, mixed energy, hydrogen will continue to be developed. Maybe they haven't reached the commercial like the normal passenger, but overseas it exists. But in Indonesia, we haven't had the hydrogen-based fuel. While battery, we can use it in the normal cars because it is easier than hydrogen because the battery exists, then we can charge it. Hydrogen needs sources that needs to be carried. It's not a competition, but we should support each other. Number two, of course, at the time the battery is not usable. The battery from electric vehicle, if the off state is below 80%, then it cannot be used for electricity vehicle because it cannot because accelerasi doesn't exist anymore. But the battery still can be used. So the first step is that this is the battery that will be reused for energy storage. So energy storage doesn't need a state-of-the-art battery because it's just a stationary stuff. So if we would like, so it can be used as energy storage. And next, after energy storage issues, we can do recycle. So there will be a circular economy where the battery, different with the lithium battery, the because the lithium is used in the aluminum foil, how we can get again the anode, and then we have to do some chemical process and make it as a new battery. So there are some method to make it recycle. they also use, so we extract the battery in a smelter perhaps, because in Europe they started because they don't have energy source. So in Europe they started with the black mass. It is extracted. So they got the nickel, they got the mangan, and they got the cobalt, and then they will reprocess it. We do not have to worry. The most important thing is there is a planning from the government. Where is the depot for used battery? Where are we going to recycle it? So the used battery will have its storage and it cannot be thrown away. So even the battery that so be, even the normal battery that we use daily, it should not be wasted. But we haven't thought about that. And then, so if the source of nickel and mangan, and we can we can produce a new one if we do not have any more sources of nickel. Thank you, Professor. And last, to Ibu Kamia, maybe in a short statement, what about the status of the interconnection between Sumatra and Java? It is correct that Sumatra-Java interconnection has been planned a long time ago, but the objective was different, to evacuate electricity from coal that is cheap to Java from Sumatra. But at that time, by certain considerations, we transported the source of energy instead of the electricity. We will implement again the planning because the objective is now different. This is to evacuate clean energy. Before we use coal energy, but now we will transport energy from renewable source. And it is already in line with the law in RUPTL that we will update. We have tried to do a synchronization with the another law but with different objective. Thank you very much, Ibu Kanya, for your clarification. We have come up to the end of the discussion. I just would like to make a conclusion that the technology mentioned by the panelists has a potential to be implemented in Indonesia with its own challenges and opportunities. The potential is there, even though to reach the goal and to achieve what we are going to reach the objective, we need a lot of effort from many stakeholders involved in the sector or in the technology. Without further ado, thank you once again for all panelists who are present, offline and online. My apologies should there be any wrongdoing. It has been opened with rhyme. Now I will close with rhyme. Going to ISEW with friend. We go back home with Jakarta. Support the technology energy for energy transition. Mr. Satrio and our source person, thank you very much. We have a picture session. And source person and moderators, could you please stand on the stage, and also please for those who join online, you have to join the photo session as well. Could you please show the pictures of the source person who join us online?
Okay, let's take a group photo now. 3, 2, 1. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to our resource persons and moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering the third session with the theme growing growth, maintaining nature, and the role of the private sector. So the small island becoming innovation center, and this talk show will discuss the important role of three stakeholders, which are the private sector, the government, and civil society organization, with the main focus to the new renewable energy projects. And this talking about the energy transition that happened in the small islands. So while waiting for the stage to be set up for this session, with us we have the moderators and all of the resource persons that as cool as the previous sessions.
Oke, panggungnya sudah selesai di setting langsung.
Okay, we have finished setting up the stage. Hello, Miss Afi Takila, JZ Program Advisor. Good afternoon, Miss Atik. You may proceed to the stage. The next one, Mr. Straptono, as the investment coordinator, investment and coordination and investment coordinator. And the next one, the Ibu Tri Mumpuni, Director of Renewable Energy. Welcome, Ibu Tri Mumpuni. And next, the one and only gentleman. Oh, we have Mr. Adi, so the second gentleman among the ladies. We have Director of Research and Development, PT Biops Agrotechno Indonesia, Mr. Malikulir Kram. Welcome, sir. And the last one, the last resource person, VP Community Empowerment, Environment and Support, from Pertamina Foundation, Madam Humaina. To Madam Humaina, we invite you to come to the stage. Welcome, Madam Humaina. So I'm gonna hand it back to the moderator. So thank you so much, Dini, for emceeing this event until the afternoon. We are now entering the critical period for all the audience and the panelists, and I am also, as a moderator, feel challenged. Again, good afternoon. Greetings to all of us. Can I hear a feedback so to make sure that you are there? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh, I can see some enthusiast participants with us. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be with you. And with us, we have people that are proven experts in implementing renewable energy in the small islands. We are very happy that today we will discuss the role of the non-government sector, which is the private sector, to green. To green meaning utilizing renewable energy in the small islands. My name is Atik Fadila, GIZ advisor. And I grew up in village electricity, and I met you in 2011. So thank God we can sit here in the same panel after 1 decade, well, more than 1 decade. And we're just gonna straight because we ran out of time. And Ibu Mumpuni, in the mid of the session. Oh, you would like to excuse yourself in the mid of the session? Just let me know. You have to go. If you have to excuse yourself. So I hope we all can receive the benefit from the session, from the session that we have. So Ibu Puni, I'm just gonna ask you, for several decades from the 1970s, you developing micro hydropower in villages and other new renewable energy initiative that you have implemented. So according to you, Ibu Puni, is there any differences between the electricity provided in the small islands, in the villages, uh, during those years, to 20 years ago and compared to now? And are we now in the right track? Is there any differences between now and like what happened 1, 2 decades ago? And are we on the right track? Okay, thank you so much. If you ask me that question, then my answer will be, my apologies, I cannot give you a firm answer. I will answer yes and no. Why I say yes? Because there are several regions in Java that already on the right track. What does that mean? Mean that the people are aware and understand that the facility that is built by the state given to me, I have to maintain it. And now there are youth, the young people, which I can call it startup. They now start giving attention to the condition of the unelectrified villages. Even I met several young people who tried to electrify Sumba Island with solar PV, and I met young people who just returned from United States to that built microhydro to electrify Cianjur area. However, it doesn't happen in the remote areas. It's still concerning. Why am I saying that? Because with the MEMR since 2015 up until now, and there are alumni, some goes to JZ as well, becoming energy patriot or energy pioneer. Why we established this program? Because we think that, well, me, my husband, several team, we will be expired, if I can say. Maybe during we are still young, we can go up and down mountain 5 times, but it's not the case now. So who can continue this journey? So in the beginning, in 2015, we think with MEMR, and I have the ability to meet with the first ring of the ministry. If we want to, if we want to talk about sustainability, if we want to talk about fair and just and electrify the villages, let's create a new army. I call them the Special Force for Energy. We call it Energy Patriot. So what we did. So once they receive sufficient skill, they need to have the competence, right? They need to have the technical competence. Now, in the training center, they are taught on how to solar PV until they obtain the certificate, starting from they don't know anything up until able to install the solar PV, and they also learn about how macro hydro look like. So the technology that is compatible with the skill and ability of the village people. And the second is the perseverance skill, because they will be in the village and they have to live in areas, well, you name it. Urban young people will not go there. There is no network, there is no clean water, there is no electricity. Everything is difficult. But so they need to see this as an adventure, and we build their empathy, because those who join uh, are actually master graduates. So what we need to build this nation, for to electrify the village and to build renewable energy, we need to grow their empathy, and I have to make sure that they have the empathy. And the third competence, so they need to have care with the people. And usually we build something using third party, and whether it's damaged or not, there will be revitalization. Now I'm quite concerned. Why we think about revitalization? Why don't you educate the village people until they have sense of ownership, they have enough knowledge, so the money instead of used for revitalization, it can be used for other villages that hasn't been electrified. And the last competence is about sincerity. Why? Because as you may know, living in remote areas, and so on and so forth. And the funding comes late. I understand our bureaucracy is like difficult bureaucracy. I have the courage to say this because I'm in there. The same in BRIN, in the National Research Innovation Agency, the same process. And if I am the person, give me one engineer, let me brainstorm with them. I will measure whether they have the competence. So if it's hydro, if it's solar PV, they because one day if they have to leave the village, they have to leave the area, they have to make sure the people have the how to, they know how to fix and maintain. But now, okay, if there is a problem, oh, we have to wait from the state budget. Oh, we have to meet in the hotel and think how to get the finance, and and I told them this is what makes it very difficult to accelerate the improvement. But that is the system, Mr. Ardi. You can't do anything unless you are the president. You can bypass everything. Even the president in the beginning, they have the high spirit. They can go directly cut the bureaucracy, but not anymore. So before I end my time, I want to have a just transition energy, but environmental friendly. Now I would like to give example. This is 1995. This is how it looked like. This is it did done by my friend John DeLeo. Then this is what happened in 2000. Indonesia has so many small islands. If we talk about hydro, to make it sustainable, then we have to revitalize this. Next slide. So this is comparison. Why? In here, we need to shift the paradigm. Without shifting a paradigm, we can't achieve this. This is 1985, the next one 2000. We talk about biodiversity. We now talking mechanistically, while our body, we have to consider the bio aspect. So you can read yourself here how on the left side and on the right side, the changes. You can read yourself. On the left side, lead to what? Lead to environmental degradation. On the right hand side is environmental conservation because different perspective. We have to start thinking the biggest issue in Indonesia is cap human capacity building. Those who are PhD on the top, perhaps, well, not all, perhaps morally incorrect. So whatever good lead to the wrong direction, especially those who receive mandate by the God to fill the important seats that should empower people. That what happened the other way around. The fact, the reality, you can see in the media. I know several people that they think on what's in it to me, how to gain something, while our people who have low capacity, those need to be empowered. That is why I optimistic the Patriot program will be continued no matter what. By all means, I have friends who support this so that it provides renewable energy with providing renewable energy, building the capacity of the local people to electrify themselves. I think that will be all from me. Thank you so much. So, if I can continue further from your explanation, so to achieve an inclusive energy transition, maybe there are other aspects that we need to consider after the technology is installed. So, according to your experience, has energy transition in Indonesia, has this been inclusive, or is there something else that we need to pay attention? Maybe BIOPS, as a non-government organization, you have initiative working together with the government to green the small island. So what we need to pay attention to achieve that you mentioned before. So in 1997, we proposed something. Up until now, it still exists. I've gone to the parliament, I've gone to the Bapanas. The proposal, I call it renewable energy trust fund only for electrified the village. So in the national government, there is PLN, MEMR, Ministry of Environment, while in the local government level, there will be like local PLN office, and in the local, previously there is like a Office of Energy and Mineral Resources, and also Office of Cooperative. So what happened in the village? They need to have institution. who are accountable, who are responsible for the operation and maintenance. And and we have also to think about collecting the bills, because village people, they cannot just let them go. Maybe the knowledge hasn't reached that level. And second, what often happen, this is the reality that we face in Aceh, in the remote areas that far from Jakarta. Usually once we build that, later on the formal institution, so I don't have to mention Koramil, Kapolsek, they don't want to pay. They say, this is free, coming from donor. I told them, yeah, we are sweating, find money to fund this. However, it has to be maintained. So unfortunately, the government program up until now, so I don't know where the difficulties is. I don't know where the difficulties are. From all until now, I always say, please give space to the people so they can provide their own energy. What we need to provide them is the technologies, assistance, financial, but make them capable, enable them. Don't always ask third party. But I'm actually curious why we have to find third party, find contractor, build it, and if the people can, they say so that it, so the economic will is moving. Again, this is about mindset. If we don't change our paradigm, the how to talk about, if we don't change our paradigm, we will never achieve inclusivity. I say energy democratization has to be clear. How? By involving the people, so they are able to utilizing their own local resources and to build according to their local capacity. Because the best technology is the technology that can be used by community, and at the same time will build their capacity. Now, empowerment is the meeting point between technology that goes down, because knowledge sharing, those engineers, those patriots sharing their knowledge, they bring the knowledge down, while the people build their capacity and they meet in the center. We call it empowerment now. I don't know why the process is not happening, but I will not lose hope. Maybe it will happen beyond my lifetime, but we have to continue the struggle. So I can say we haven't reached that far. If you talk about energy transition and other jargon, not to mention JETP, my critic to JETP, please, how can you say just energy while we have brothers and sisters, 12,000 villages who hasn't enjoyed electricity? How you can think reducing development while we have people who haven't enjoyed the development itself? So in my opinion, the best step is, I am still committed that MEMR support, we educate our young people, our great smart young people, so they are willing to be deployed to those remote areas, border areas, areas that like in, go to Kalimantan, Papua. Those people that I have big hope that we can achieve a very smooth energy transition, not just following all of the jargon slogan outside from Indonesia. Thank you so much, Ibu Puni, because of your spirit, so that everyone wake from their sleep. So, to go to Pak Adi, so since 2010, from micro hydro, and 2012 you go to communal solar power plant. So I believe MEMR, New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation Director General, try to find ways how to make it sustainable, how to involve non-government actors to be involved in this fight and effort. And this morning, Mr. Dirjen say about people-centered development for this renewable energy. So what are the breakthroughs or the strategy from new renewable energy or from the government to achieve that targets? And perhaps you can answer how the government put NGO, private sector, how the government put those entities position in greening the small islands. Okay, thank you so much. So perhaps to follow what Ibu Puni just mentioned, yes, there are several things that we have to pay attention from the things that Ibu Mumpuni just mentioned, bottom-up skill. So we need to understand the skill level on the location. We need to identify the potential. We need to understand the people characteristic and how we can educate and build their capacity. So they are able to uh, utilize the local energy potential and to find ways to make it more sustainable. And for that, the government. So this is beyond business, especially we are talking, off grid, yeah, because for on grid is the domain of PLN. So the government focus on off grid, outside the grid, because the government obligation is to electrify all citizens. Perhaps the project is not feasible or viable by PLN, so that's where the government fill the gap. And so specifically is about how to implement off-grid. So this is still mixed, yeah. And also perhaps how to provide energy access, a small-scale energy access, and then the solar energy and local energy. And there are several forms, like with the support of state budget. And this is regular every year to use the state budget and how to electrify remote areas, villages, so they can use their local energy source. And if not, they can use APDAL or electricity tank. So it's similar to power bank, where the electricity can be disconnected and then reused again. And there is also another mechanism, we call it special allocation fund. Special allocation fund, small scale fund, and this use this so the local government giving opportunity to the local government to propose which area that really need, and then that proposal will be assessed, and if the proposal is approved, then the fund will transfer directly to the local government, and the local government who will implement that proposal. And this also use the local government institution or and also other relevant institution. However, MEMR will still oversee and monitor the implementation. And how to make sure that the local energy potential is used for certain objective, like utilizing solar PV in the fishery sector, to have cold storage, and in doing this, we also work with relevant institution or work with donor to build solar PV in Mataredi in East Nusa Tenggara and also in Mawonga. And like you see in the picture, this use a mechanism cooperation with donor, between the government and donor. And another example of off-grid, and this is going through USAID access. And now is several example of cooperation with the USAID access. You can see in the slide. And this is one example on how to. And these are example. This is our example on how we can initiate programs. Programs can be funded by the national government, can be funded by the local government, can also be funded by donor institution. And we also prepare the required regulation to implement those programs. And as mentioned, and to follow up what Ibu Mumpuni said, we have to educate the people so they understand how to use the energy wisely and productively. Because if we don't educate them, then what have been built will not be sustainable. We have experience whereby in several locations, once we built solar PV, we assume the lifetime can reach 5 years. However, within 2 or 3 years, there will be a shifting of behavior previously used for lighting, and then they use it to buy sound system, buy TV, buy refrigerator, where the solar PV was not designed for that, and it's only for 500 volt hour per day, but they jumper it, and it caused the inverter to broke down. So this kind of program require education, continuous education, and we are very grateful. We are very grateful with Ibu Mumpuni's program. The people from the Patriot program educate the people, educate the community, so they understand how to use the energy wisely and productive. So, how about government see Pertamina Foundation? How the government see set-owned enterprise who have CSR hands? How you see SMEs, startups? So how the government see the position of those entities to support the national government to implement this? For example, for operation and maintenance, we can actually involve the private sector and engage them to work in the subnational level, and perhaps innovator from universities that can provide solution to the government to address the issue. So how DG of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation see those entities based on the previous experience? Now, how we see CSR, or how we position CSR, how we position CSOs. Well, we try to understand first the location. We try to understand what we need to do, and then we will direct them to go there, and then we bridge and we will work with the relevant local government, because we also now have a presidential regulation, the latest one, about the concurrent governance, where previously the local government doesn't have the authority to manage their new renewable energy potential, but now they have the ability, because we have this presidential regulation. Previously, new renewable energy potential, usually our hand cannot go to those remote areas. That is why we need the support from the local government. So the synergy between the local government, CSR, academia, CSOs can be optimized, supported by this new presidential regulation. It is very interesting because we have this new regulation. Now I will move to Ibu Muamaina. In the Pertamina Foundation website, if you would like to open it now, in the Pertamina Foundation website, it is explicitly stated the vision and mission, the 3Ts areas, which is the remote areas. Now, in the CSR arm, they don't mention specifically these 3Ts area, 3Ts referring to remote areas. So, according to Pertamina Foundation, how important it is to have inclusive energy transition. Now, Pertamina Foundation, the mandate is to implement CSR program in the pillar of education and community empowerment. So we try to transform from the Pertamina employees prosperity program. So from inward looking, we now outward looking. So we expand the beneficiaries, not only Pertamina internal employees. And Pertamina focus in energy field, and the role is to maintain the security of energy supply. But when we talk about energy, it is associated with emission. However, we cannot pay attention. We cannot just pay attention. We cannot leave economic growth and not consider that. And one of the indicator is energy consumption per capita. So how can we strike a balance between energy and economy? And in the remote areas, there are many areas that hasn't been that cannot access energy. So we for this talk about global, like in 17 SDGs, we focus on the sustainability goals. We receive direct calls from our director. We are instructed to continue initiative related to sustainability that bring global impact. And how can we do this? By performing energy transition. And we believe in energy transition, no one left behind in energy transition. That is why the previous speaker said we have to bring technology down and we need to empower the people. So we use social innovation approach to drive energy transition. So if we can go to the slide, next slide. And how about the role? And we believe what who that become the critical point of sustainability are the small village, the rural areas, the treaties areas. And then so the CEO instruction, we translate that into this PF series program, starting from scholarship, science innovation competition that we're going to talk in detail here. PF Science is technology innovator competition who come from research center, universities, or from the smallest local communities. In the 4 years of journey, this science competition has successfully implement a 15 sustainable programs. So 4 years is sustainable. It's not easy to maintain. It's not easy to maintain programs to be sustainable in 4 years in those remote areas, like in Bugin Island, in Tenggarong, in Kaliudupa, working with GIZ, and there is also Gili Island. It's so there are 15 leading programs that still running up until now, and we have installed around 32,900 watt peak. If I read the proposal, I'm about to cry. I have teary eyes. Actually, not too far in Sumeneb, in Pagurungan Kecil, there is a very high rate of maternal mortality rate. So they cannot store medicine. They don't have electricity. So if there is mother delivery baby and there is no medicine, the mother and infant will die. So not so far from our city in Gresik, in East Gili Island, in the middle of Java Sea, we have the village Sidobadong Batu, and it hasn't been electrified in 2022. Hasn't been electrified, and we have innovator from the Gajah Mada University and one of other university. They have a program called Innovative Ice Maker to produce ice cubes in that remote areas. Why? Because for them, and most of them work as fishermen or fisher folk with 2,000 population, and because they have a good tourism potential, the mothers open small shops there. Ice cube becoming a critical needs to them, and they have to buy from Bawean Island. They have to go using a boat with a distance of 2.3 kilometers, and it consumes fuel associated with cost and also emission. So the students come with this innovation, and they have a ice maker producer with the capacity of 500 kilograms, powered by solar, and the fund was not so big, or less than 200 million rupiah. And but they save transportation costs so huge, and to purchase ice cube that very expensive in the neighboring island, and they consume themselves. In 1 month, they spent 27 million. Not to mention, when I read from the customer satisfaction survey, the mothers really gives testimony saying, "Thank you so much by provide us energy accessibility. We have ice cube and we can have a new menu." So they now have like cold beverage. That's very important, and that is why we continue invite social innovator. Let's go electrified, bring the good energy in all islands of archipelagic, because we here enjoy this facility, but those are struggling just to drive their economy, just to stay alive. Well, we can share more stories. There are many different stories. We have another program called it Youth PF, innovation to empower the community. We have PF Bangkit or PF Rise with their volunteer. And before I go here, we just launched independent energy village. How these young people, our future leaders, have empathy on social issues, on environmental issues. They are invited to develop a proposal to then implement, and they can decide whatever village to implement their proposals. What is the objective? We would like to bring direct experience to those people to go to these remote areas and to introduce to these remote areas that we have this clean energy, we have renewable energy, we can bring lights that may drive their local economy. So to make them understand what is the new renewable energy, clean energy, and what more important, to make sure that they're able to maintain independent, sustainability, and engagement. So those are the what we wish to implement. So in the last 2 years, GIZ participate as a jury, and the enthusiasts, starting from Aceh, I watch proposal from Aceh up until East Nusa Tenggara. They all come out with their own innovation. Well, if we compare with people from the university, well, there are tier in terms of readiness level that are varied, but the spirit is there. Okay, now I would like to move to Malik. Now, you mentioned about young innovators, and one of them is Malik, who just returned from Japan, Malik, developing algorithm about automatic agriculture irrigation. Now, I have a question to you. BIOPS is the focus to food security, but when we invite BIOPS, uh, people who live on island very rare eating vegetables. When they say they eat vegetable, that means eating instant noodle with rice. So for people who live in island, vegetables are rare thing. Now, BIOPS try to answer that challenge. I am curious actually, your vision or BIOPS vision about water, food, nexus, has it reached the ideal state, and what improvement can be done? So over to you, Malik.
Thank you. Pleased to introduce myself. My name is Malik from BIOS IGO Techno. I represent the young innovator in Indonesia. You have question about water energy nexus in Indonesia. After I found it out myself, how's the condition in Indonesia? There is one from 1 to 100. Indonesia is in 64.4. So we are in rank 30 from the countries all over the world. So we are still below Malaysia, Brunei, and other developed countries. What can we improve from water energy and nexus, especially in energy field and in food field? As mentioned earlier by Ms. Abdik, we BIOPS focuses on how we can bring new era to the food world, because Indonesia is an agriculture country and it is an archipelago also. How we can be independent in terms of food and in terms of energy. There is an intertwining between energy and food, and also with water that is needed for as consumption and as production. After we see that energy and food can be developed further, what can be done by us? So that's why we are very happy when GIZ invite us to cooperate for the project in Duba for the provision of irrigation. So what did we do? We do the mechanism, and we automate it to help the work of the farmers there. So they are able to provide irrigation in a easily. And after we install it early this year in May 2023, and it's been running for 6 months. So the result, the farmers didn't have automatic irrigation without mechanic assistance. It was only several farmers that who can work there. With the assistance of our program, there are some women even now who can do their irrigation automatically. So they just can do monitoring. So previously they had to carry water and with long-term leave and others. So previously they found it difficult to find water. So with this assistance, we expect the women to be productive in agriculture. And we do that also in small islands. Renewable energy is implemented, as Ibu Trimumpuni showed earlier, that the land that was used for agriculture that used to be 400 meters square now increased for about 6,000 meters square. So apparently there are some benefit. We move from the project of when we graduate, and then we gather together like what are we going to do. So that's why the benefit can be enjoyed by people out there, and it is really needed by all of them. With that, from the renewable energy side that was used well, we use photovoltaic using solar panel, and with the assistance from the irrigation system, we can do the efficiency either from the effort that the human should do, like they have to carry water before, now they just do the monitoring. And in terms of water, we save water as well. Previously, it wasn't measurable, like they pour the land with water until it is drawn, or so it is not measurable. Ibu, thank you for producing time in the midst of your busy schedule. Ibu Puni, thank you very much. Her schedule is very tight today. Thank you very much. With your permission, let's continue with the question. I'd like to follow up to Malik about the research, because Malik talked about the project. It is the project when you were still in college. So you have so many ideas as college students. So how's the story starting from the research? Because because well, it relatable with us. That's what the Gen Z said. So how do you develop that from the campus research to commercial research? So you have already implemented many projects with some ministries. How's the process to improve the TRL of the irrigation system? Let's look back. How was the process of the project of the college students? It's been running for about 5 years since our establishment. There were so many assistants from other parties. So it is like a multi-stakeholder collaboration. Since the very beginning, we gathered in a campus innovator in Bandung Institute of Technology. We gathered and we had the same vision to develop Indonesia. So that's why we developed BIOPS. In campus, maybe in other campus it happens too, not only in my campus. We have incubator institution. It's like a startup, and we were assisted, we were given training, we were given capital to make the prototype, and we were given a connection to some parties, including the government. So we got the funding from Ministry of Research and Technology, and we had also funding from private sectors, and we joined some contests also. Until now, we met with several partners, collaborators, and others. So what makes BIOPS develop from the beginning until now? Maybe it is a kind of pentahelix process, what we call it now. So campus is the one that owns the research because our ideas come from the campus research, and we need commercialization from the industry sector in the form of startup. And then there is also financial support, and we got it from financial institution in regards with the development of the prototype. And we got funding also for further development. An organization like GIZ and YAPECA is the ones that can communicate this technology to the community. And we have support also from the government. They support us because they also support many startup climates within the community. And we see potentials in startups in Indonesia. Thank you, Malik. Let's move a little bit. I'd like to follow up to Ibu Adi and Malik. Can you elaborate more about the new presidential decree that the regional government can have more authority for bringing renewable energy to their region? So Presidential Decree 11, 2023. So there is a gap in the regulation. There is the law of regional autonomy, and there is Minister of Home Affairs Regulation 2019. We have a gap that the regional government is not given authority in the form of budget to manage the existing asset. What I said, that there is the development through state budget. It should be handed over by the regional government, but after it is handed over to them, they cannot make budget for that, for maintenance. So with the Minister of Home Affairs regulation, it is then limited only for geothermal. That's the situation of our policies. There is a gap in the regulation. and how we find a solution through higher regulation. In this case is ministerial decree. And with this ministerial decree, we have a structure of to manage that, so everything can be done holistically. Like we can manage electricity from wind, water, solar, and energy conservation. So the regional government has more authority because the hand can reach a secluded area. They understand their own region. Thank you, Mr. Adi. Seems that it will strengthen multi-stakeholder collaboration mentioned earlier. Do we have time for questions? One question, okay. One question. I'd like to invite the participant here to ask question. Anybody wish to ask question? Or the panelists can ask to each other? Nobody would like to ask questions? Malik or Padi? You would like to ask questions? Or I represent Malik and other young innovators to ask to Ibu Humaina. How can the Pertamina Foundation see the candidate of collaborator? What criteria that they have to have? What are the ideal criteria in order for them to cooperate with the institution as big as Pertamina? We merged because we got married because we have the same vision, right? So Pertamina Foundation has shifted its approach. They do their social approach, not by philanthropical system, but we involve the community, the involvement of the stakeholders. So in order to collaborate, we seek the agents of change, social innovator, technopreneur, game changers who are ready to change many problems from upstream to downstream by providing a vehicle. So maybe you can use the vehicle in the format of the strategy that the Pertamina has. We have competition of village, energy village. So we use the social approach. But we found some big challenges in terms of how we can provide independent energy and sustainable energy. First, it's technology. Second is sufficient budget. Third, how's the preparedness of the human resources? Let's collaborate. If you have advantage in that matter, our door is very open because we are inspired by the SDGs. What is the first SDG? No poverty. Is close with the strategic four goals, partnership four goals. So we believe that to finalize SDG problems should be done by partnership four goals. So please wait, we can do the brainstorming, we can do FGD, matchmaking for the programs that we cannot finance it ourselves. So we can bring clean energy throughout Indonesia. Mr. Malik, it's very good. Please, maybe you can be our mentor. And we need assistance from the government also in terms of policy and support. And so audience can be the game changers also. I hope it can respond to your questions. So we need to explore the website of Pertamina. Follow the Instagram. Do you have time to sleep? So media team doesn't. It is the media team who doesn't sleep. So we only have 2 seconds. I don't have time to summarize. but the acceleration of the renewable energy use in small islands become very important because they're the ones who are very impacted by energy transition strategy. If you don't believe it, please travel. And it is undeniable that partnership from the private sector and the government who support with the regulation can assist in the acceleration, and it can maintain the sustainability of the energy that has been implemented. After my session, there will be a finance item because we have Ibu Riza Arsa. So you can stay. Malik also said about funding for so young innovator can stay here to hear and to listen more about financing. Thank you. My name is Toko Safaidila. Together with the source persons, would like to send my gratitude. Thank you very much. And Assalamualaikum. Please stay on the stage because we have a photo session. Our photographers, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Once again. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen who still join us online and offline, we have entered the last session, but for those who would like to take your snack, you can bring the snacks to the room because in this session, the topic is also interesting. As mentioned by Ibu Atik, since morning, we have discussed about technology, we have discussed about the role of stakeholders. Now we will discuss about financing aspect in order to accelerate the energy transition. So the theme is to accelerate financing and to reduce the investment risk, precision and energy precision to support green energy in Indonesia. In order to achieve the NDZ and NZA target Indonesia, it requires billions of US dollars for energy sectors. Due to the fiscal capacity, due to the limited fiscal capacity, it requires involvement of private sector, but it is still far from the needs. To find a good solution on how to ensure the adequate guarantee and to have the return that is according to the risk, we will listen to the comment from the private sectors. Let's now call our moderator, Ibu Lisha Erza, Vice Chair International Investor Access from Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and from Adrindo Group. Let me read their bio. Let me read their bio. So Ibu Lisha Erza is an entrepreneur, economist, and the activist of sustainability, acknowledged by globally and nationally. So they also involved in the Women in FinTech and got the award from Innovate UK. She led the sustainable business department in the agriculture company, Agrindo Group, the biggest manufacturer in Indonesia. She is also the vice chairman of Kadin for international organization, and she is active in providing advice to the companies, especially for new renewable energy in industry sector. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I'd like to invite our source persons who are also very cool. We have CEO PT Maharaksa Biro Energy, Madam Bobby Gafur Umar, Mr. Bobby Gafur Umar. Welcome, sir. And second, Executive Vice President of PT Penjamin Infrastruktur Indonesia, Dr. Yuki Mahardito Aditya Wardana. Welcome, Mr. Yuki. And number 3, Deputy Commissioner for Fundraising BP Tapera, Mr. Gatot Subadio. Welcome, sir. And number 4, Director of Trisakti Sustainability Center, Ibu Dr. Juniati Gunawan. Welcome, ma'am. And last, Sustainability Manager Coca-Cola Euro Pacific Partners Indonesia, Mr. Imam Santoso Wahyu. Welcome, sir. I'd like to hand over the floor to Ibu Licia. Ibu, please, over to you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is quite a heavy time. And let me begin with a rhyme so you are more enthusiastic. So the rhyme is inspired by food. Chicken goes out. It's a rhyme. We will discuss money now. Don't get sleep because we will discuss about money. We have our great source persons. We have Dr. Yuki Emma Wardana, Vice President of Penjaminan Infrastruktur. We will learn from him a lot to reduce that risk. How is it like? And we have Mr. Gatot Subadio, Deputy Commissioner of Pengukuhan Dana PT Bapera. So for those who are wondering how to purchase the house, and the house should also be green, so where we get the funding from? So we will listen from him. And my chairman in Kadin and Apindo, Mr. Bobby Gafun Uma, CEO PT Maharaksa Biro Energy. In Google, Cinta Laura Energy, and you will find Mr. Bobby. Mr. Bobby is CEO from PT Biro Maharaksa Energy, and he has role in many leadership in organization in Indonesia. And we have Mr. Imam Santoso Wahyu. Mr. Iman, okay, if it is hot, then we need cold Coca-Cola. So we drink when it is hot. So to cool the Coca-Cola, we need energy. We will discuss about that with him. And we have the somebody from Sustainability Center who has been dealing with it for since 2003. So you understand more which one is lie and which one is the risk. Ladies and gentlemen, let's listen the sharing in this afternoon. How's the implementation, investment, and funding access, risk reduction? How is it like? So let's begin. If everyone is afraid, if somebody is afraid to invest in renewable energy, maybe Mr. Yuki can give the answer how to do the risk reduction. Mr. Yuki. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please to introduce myself. My name is Yuki from PT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia. I followed what has been discussed in the previous sessions. I got a conclusion. When we would like to do energy transition mechanism, when we try to establish what we call renewable energy, cost becomes something that is key. Today, we will try to share with you about how to implement the scheme to develop renewable energy in Indonesia based on our experience. So from the scheme, ladies and gentlemen, how we can reduce the reduction in investor. which is taken over by other parties, in this case is the government. What is the objective? The objective is that the cost of fund for the clean energy project becomes cheaper. At the end, we will talk about the product. The product will be cheaper because the cost of fund is cheaper. If we see that financing in general, let's talk about debt equity ratio in Indonesia around 70 to 30. 70 from loan, 30% from equity. 70% or 30% should be balanced. In pragmatic manner, these two percentage will see the risk, high risk and high return. So the scheme is very important. PTPE was established in 2009 by the government with the objective to attract investors, as many as possible, to Indonesia, including local and foreign investors, and to make them comfortable. So PTPEI is expected to have the sovereign guarantee. So the government guarantee is done by PTPEI. We are the engine of the Ministry of Finance. So we are not under Ministry of State-owned Enterprises. We are under Ministry of Finance. The objective is to provide guarantee for the return of investment done by investors. In line with time, to provide good investment, we need a homework. So the mandate is added as the facilitator of the project. There is something that differ between guarantee and insurance. Guarantee is focusing on risk, so it will monitors the existing risk starting from the beginning until the end of the guarantee period. So the credibility of the process improves, the risk that is managed is well managed, and the investment becomes comfortable. So the bankability and credit worthiness of one project can improve, and if it improves, then the risk reduces. If the risk is declining, credit enhancement will enter. That's the basic concept. Until today, we just guarantee one project, street lighting in North Lombok. Currently, we manage 498 trillion project with 48 project. Of course, we don't guarantee 498 trillion because there are some components that we don't guarantee either. To be guaranteed, everything should be worthiness in terms of technical and process. In terms of renewable energy, we have the procurement of this during the G20 summit, and we guarantee the credit for the procurement of hydropower program in Sulawesi worth 6.6 trillion rupiah. And if you know Geodipa, for the development of Patuha and Dieng 2, we guarantee the credit from ADB. It's 6.9 trillion, relatively high. What is interesting in the last 1 minute, I will talk about street lighting. If we talk why the investment should be guaranteed, why risk is an important thing. Let's see the puzzle, starting from the construction. In the eye of the investor, the risk is very high if we talk about Indonesia. We see these three phases. Our concern is still the discriminative law changing. And then we ask permission, but the permission is not issued. It takes a long time to issue the permission. It has to be guaranteed because it takes a long time. And then it is terminated because there is a sudden policy that occur. And the procurement of the land of the project, we know the infrastructure, land provision is a serious matter. So when we would like to attract investor, when we would like to return our investment, apparently the budget to return the investment is not a grid, it's not approved. We can guarantee that. So all of that has caused that investors are afraid when they see the risk. To mitigate their fear, so what we do is doing the state guarantee through our company. The hope is with the cheap price, renewable energy and energy transition mechanism process can run smoothly according to the expected target. This is my last slide. I only have 1 minute. This is one of the process of energy efficiency concept that makes Madiun can cut 45 years of time to provide 299 kilometers street lighting. 299 kilometers. If it is normal, Madiun needs 45 years, ladies and gentlemen. By using creative scheme of PPP, and the duration is 10 years, and the capex for about 100 billions, and the return with affordability, Madiun, currently if you go to Madiun, it's quite bright. 312 kilometers of road in Madiun is already street lighted. Why we can do this? Because the investor is comfortable and the ROI is certain. The lender is comfortable, the risks is declining, and the interest can decline, and community is happy. There is the 50% energy saving in terms of electricity, and the cost can be handed or can be shifted to the procurement of the street lighting. So this is creative financing, dairy scheme, guarantee. We can leverage and cut the development of infrastructure more or less in this case is 45 years. So this is what we can do. So we can interact more in question and answer. Thank you, Mr. Yuki. So from 45 years, you cut it until 10 years because the risk is reduced. Please give applause.
Now we also have challenge. We would like to taste house backlog. Now, who have their own house, their own apartment? Who still live with your in-laws? I don't want to like to raise hand, yeah. So now we're going to listen when we talk about accelerating financing, mitigate the risk. Risk. There is also long-term risk, not only 3 to 5 years, but until 20 to 30 years, because we are talking about residential. Now let's listen from Mr. Gatut with regard to green living, green housing. It has to be affordable, it has to be convenient, it has to be environmental friendly, using renewable energy. So from the tabungan perumahan rakyat, from this what do you call it, people's housing saving program in literal translation. So greetings, I hope everyone is healthy, both joining in here and joining virtually. Today we're talking about house, but the big theme is about financing. When we talk about financing, there will be risk and return. Second, fund provision. Because imagine, let's say you want to buy house using your own existing salary, then there should be parties who will support the financing aspect, especially for those who just come into the labor force or just have their have jobs. And this theme so the theme is how to, let's say we want to apply a concept. Now today we are talking about energy, so meaning energy saving. Now the end of energy saving is will lead to a cheap operating cost for the occupants, because if not, what's in it to them. Now, to achieve energy saving, then the house itself has to be designed in such way that it will consume energy less, and the environment must also support the house to reduce energy requirements. So let's see. Seeing is believing, right? So this is the houses built by Tapera, the housing financing program. Now these are the houses built by the housing financing program. The price is around 150, so the cost around 150 until 120 million rupiah, available across Indonesia. Now, when we talk about energy saving or save energy, these houses, the electricity is around 1,200, 900 until 1,300 voltage, and mostly they are prepaid. I'm just gonna return one slide. At least this illustrates the environment. So this illustrates the environment of the houses, meaning these houses are built with the idea the houses should be built to make the environment green, and second, it is built in such way that will consume less electricity. Now I talk about Tapera, this housing financing program. What is Tapera? Tapera is a legal entity established by the government with the goal to accumulated savings, to accumulated funds from the customers, from the participants. Who are the participants? Those are the workers who have who have salary level from minimum wage up until maximum level. So this fund that we accumulated will be used mainly to finance low income housing, housing for low income community. So the objective is to houses finance houses for low income people. Now the customers, the owner of those savings are unlimited, right? uh, the customers can be manager, let's say division head, or those who receive salary above the minimum wage. So what will they get? Now, some of the funds are invested so that the customers can receive returns. Therefore, the fund utilized to finance this housing that is considered relatively cheap, those customers can be compensated equal to the if they invest in the capital market, in money market. So we allocate 10% as a reserve if the customers retired. 20 to 35% we invest in the capital market. Therefore, this fund give a quite huge yield, around 6 to 7% annually. And then 50% are used to finance this low income houses for low income people. So Tapera is not a bank. Tapera provide liquidity, provide cash flow. Bank that will be visited by our customers to receive financing. What is the rate? 5%. For how many years? 20 years, 20 years to 30 years of mortgage. Meaning, we have to convince the bank, the creditor, we have to make sure it is cheap or affordable. How to make it, how to compensate this to make it sustainable? Because the fund need to be accumulated, need to be grow, and need to be returned to the fund owner or customer. So in order to do that, we do portfolio management. Some of the fund put in the capital market, some put in the reserve to return to the customers when they go retired, and most used to finance low income houses for low income community. Now, those rich customer cannot access the financing facility, but they can enjoy the return. Now, those low income people, they receive support to own their first house. So the house is like simple house. The standard follow the standard set by the Ministry of Public Works and Housing. The rate is 5%, relatively low compared to market mortgage rate, and the facility is 500 until 200 million rupiah. 200 million, like for region in Papua, that is far because the construction house relative more expensive. So we hope this model can be used as a model to finance houses for low income people. Now, if it's above above low income people, then it goes into the commercial lending, which is provided by the banking, commercial bank. And so far, we have financed around 121 trillion rupiah. We have built around 1.3 million houses up until today, spread across Indonesia. Now, this illustrates that the need for house, like this reflect that many people need houses. So in terms of the most, it's from East Java, Central Java, and West Java. I think we can skip the regulation part. However, where the source of funding come actually, especially to make sure that ensure that this is sustainable, we give opportunity to other parties to work with us in the form of other source of fund to be placed in our place in a contract that we design together that can serve another source of fund. And at the moment, source of our fund is from the government. Second, from the Tapera Fund. Tapera Fund comes from the customers, and then FLPP. FLPP is from the government. Now, this is the money that has been disbursed, and we are the project or the program manager. Next slide, please. And this is the business model, like we told you earlier. So we accumulated fund from the workers, and then we manage in the form of management contract, just like shares, and then we allocate for reserve, for develop, and for finance. And the one who will enjoy is the low income people. Now, people who have salary bigger than that, they will not enjoy the housing financing, but they enjoy the return. So we promise them they will get their money back along with the return. And to become our customer, the annual return is 3%, and if we accumulate the fund yearly, then you can calculate yourself. So how to make it sustainable? So we use the customer saving, we receive fund from government, and we also invite community to place their money in us. With regard to financing, the window of opportunity is actually big. For example, to, oh, to when we so when there is a encouragement for green building, when there's a green bonds was issued, we also purchase green bond, and in overall, we at least recognize the this is something that can be replicated for safe energy bond. Investor will always see what the purpose of the bond, the return, and the risk. So that's when we talk about our source of funding. And at the end of the day, what's next? So actually, at the end of the day, we have regulation, we have objective, we have model, we have system, and what's next is execution, execution, and education. So I think that the story of financing houses, there are different parties who are involved. The developer, they are required to build houses that is green, energy saving, and the demand side need to be educated as well. Why? Because we are, managing and constructing houses for low-income people. Efficient house, healthy house, and it has to be affordable or cheap. Now, the occupants, the people who will live the house, must realize to purchase or to live in green or energy-saving houses, it will make the convenience level higher. And if this is a community, then the community will be very healthy, and the operating costs in when living the house will be low. And if it scale it up, it will become something good for all over Indonesia. So really good. So we live comfortably, and this also involve energy efficiency, and we will have more money. Thank you so much, Mr. Gatot. We can discuss further about the challenges, and we also discuss about the regulation. Now, from the government side, there is infrastructure guarantee, and there is also funding provided for low-income people. Now we're going to shift to the private sector. Let's listen to the actors. When we talk about renewable energy, when we talk about energy efficiency, there is also the role of private sector. We always say, oh, we need more funding from the private sector. But now let's listen to Mr. Bobby about, so as a private sector actor, maybe you can share about how you invest your money, what is the background, and what practices that Maharaksa Biru has done. So over to you, Mr. Bobby. Good afternoon. I was invited to share my experience, as a business actor. A business actor who work as professional in a big group. So I worked 30 years in Bakri and 17 years as CEO. And then I moved out in 2020, and then I built a new business. And this is a business that is not popular at that time. This is an environmental concentrated business, and people, there's no money in there. So the background was the world is now heading to a critical situation. We all know that there is this greenhouse gas effect that caused by a big carbon emission, big pollution. And this became the concern of many countries in the last 15 years. We all know that the Earth's temperature continued to increase. When I was small, when I go to Bandung, I still wear long sleeve shirt, but now it's very hot in Bandung. And there is a threat of increase of global warming of 1.5 degrees until 2035 that will lead to disaster. Now, at the moment, with this long El Nino, we can feel in Jakarta and other globe experiencing fires everywhere. And this is what we affect that we impacted us. Jakarta last year and the last 2 months, Jakarta has the worst polluted, worst air pollution, worst air quality in the world. So not only carbon emission, but there is also particle that came from industry and also from power plant. I see this as an opportunity. Why? Because across the world, this uh, the world are familiar with this, and there are processes that already ongoing, and they have commitment that they signed in 2015, and then effective 2016, 196 countries signing Paris Agreement to achieve net zero 2050. So these are the commitment from different countries all over the world. Almost all countries are committed. And in addition to that, and therefore all policies or regulation and development fund will heading to the same direction. I show you a study from McKinsey. McKinsey see that there are 11 new industries, well, not new, but there are 11 industries that will generate new revenue between 4 to 5 trillion US dollars on annual basis. So these are new businesses that may generate new revenue, and the biggest one from transportation. Transport, well, current vehicle that use fossil fuel will change into a clean energy or clean transportation using electricity or hydrogen. So this is a huge business. So if we see recently, Indonesia would like to become the king of nickel. Indonesia would like to build battery in Indonesia. Why? Because the business will be very much developed in the transportation sector, in the transportation business. Nickel is the upstream, battery is the midstream, and the final product is electric vehicle. And then the second one is power, electricity or energy that we consume and we use on daily basis. Now, from that 11 businesses, there is one business that I focus on, which is biomass, energy that come from biomass, and one of them is waste. And it turns out waste become a huge issue in the world. And those developed countries like Japan, European countries, they have put attention to waste since 100 years ago. They have segregated the waste, they have processed the waste in such way. Our closest country, like Singapore, if we open YouTube, they have processed their waste into electricity since 15 years ago. So we are still very left behind. Waste only disposed in the landfill, and in Jakarta, the landfill is in Bantar Gembang, and the rest are disposed in our yard. We burn it or we dispose it into the ocean. Now, this is a business. Now, I see biomass, which include waste, can give a new business. And for me, the most important thing when this new business exists, and I think where the funding can come from. Now, along with the government direction and all of the business heading to green economy, and the financing for this also increasing. Now, let me give you an example. Green bonds in the year of 2022, there was issuance of 500 billion US dollar, and it will develop up until 5 trillion US dollar in the next 3 years. 5 trillion US dollar. If we can access the fund, not to mention Indonesia has huge potential, so it should not be difficult to access that fund. Now, this is the business that I am focusing at the moment. My company, along with my partners, we focus on renewable energy. One of them is a biomass power plant, and then green industry. And I see the industry has not yet green certified, and there is bio carbon tax. And then I also focus on bioglycol, waste management, and smart technology. Smart technology that focus on waste management and smart lighting. Now, these are our projects. So at the moment, I have several projects in Bangka Island, in West Java, in Lebak, Banten area for co-firing biomass. We just start in West Nusa Tenggara and also in Blora district. We have what our hydropower plant, and we also have a waste management project in Jakarta, or waste to energy project in Jakarta. Next slide. Can we go to the next slide? Is this the last slide? Okay, fine. So this conclude my sharing. I still have 2 minutes. We have heard uh, mentioned by Mr. Gatot about greenhousing. So in the world, green industry or green living is now become mandatory in the world. There are many large companies, especially in Indonesia, still exploiting the natural resources. However, in the last 1.5 or 2 years, they declare themselves to go green. Recently, Indica, Bakri Group with the electric bus, Adaro, and recently Barito just do IPO for the geothermal company. And I always say to my business friends, don't hesitate to go green, even though it is difficult. Difficult, like there isn't regulation yet. And few weeks ago, there is the opening of carbon exchange. People are waiting for this because this this is the medium for the owner of carbon credit to sell their carbon credit to the market and the buyer as well. But the trading is still very quiet. Why? Because the carbon credit owner is very still small, but it will be developed very rapid, and it will yield a high value. And that concludes my presentation. And I believe the development of industry and the investment in green will be very rapid. What's left is just Indonesia readiness to prepare the laws, to prepare the regulation, while still hasn't been enacted and still in the parliament that hasn't been enacted yet, and also the financing. And I think the banking sector is still far from ready because the interest rate is still above 10%. For green bond, for green financing, we hope it's the interest rates are at most 3% to finance a very huge investment. Thank you so much, Mr. Bobby. So you have explained about the opportunity. So it's not because of rate expensive, but from the opportunity and trend. So, Mr. Bobby, as a company, you see the opportunity and performing quite well in this industry. So, from a business actor who play in energy field, now we shift to a company that use energy and has initiatives on renewable energy. Now let's listen to Pak Iman from Coca-Cola Pacific Partners. Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to organizing committee for inviting Coca-Cola Euro Pacific Partners to share about our sustainability activities that we have. Can we switch the screen because over there is timer? Cannot, yeah. Can someone help to, or maybe you can move your seat to me so it will be easier. You can sit in here. So that Pak Iman can see the slide. Okay. So from CCEP, we are very serious to reduce our negative impact to climate and to the environment. My apologies, we don't get audio in, so we can't translate what the moderator is saying. But if I can try, the moderator is inviting if there is any questions coming from the floor. Yeah. Okay, we got the audio back. So my apologies, Mr. Imans, you may continue. Because if not, if we don't have this, then we lose the attention of the participants. Anyway, we have 6 pillars of sustainability. The first one is climate action. The second is sustainable packaging. The third one is water. We also have pillars for community or society or drinks. And the last one is supply chain. Because of limitation of time from all of those 6 pillars, I'm just gonna focus on the climate pillar. The target of our climate action first, we have ambition to reach net zero carbon by 2040. Paris Agreement is by 2050, so we have ambition 10 years faster. And the next one, to reduce our GHG emission absolute by 30% by 2030 as compared with our baseline in 2019. And the next one, all of our activity, we use energy. So we have target 100% renewable electricity by 2030 because we are a beverages industry. Now, beverages industry, 80% of the carbon emission goes into or come from scope 3. So involving supplier. So it's really important to involve the supplier. That is why we have target to make sure that 100% of our suppliers are committed with SBTI by 2030 and also use the renewable electricity. Next slide, please. Now, this illustrates our value chain, starting from the raw material, manufacturing, customers, and packaging, from raw material processing until the product is sent to our customer. I just would like to highlight several parts. In the ingredients, we have reformulated over 20 of our products, so the sugar content is less. We also shifting from granular. Previously, the sugar was granular, solid, and then we shifted to liquid, and it reduced the carbon emission from our side in the plant and also from our supplier side. And if we go to the rightmost side, the ventures is the flagship of the CCP Central from the Europe, trying to find a new initiative, and one of them is about sustainability. So there are initiatives, an infant initiative can access financing from ventures. Now, these are 3 initiatives that I can say our icon. The first one, so since 2019, CCEP has invest in rooftop solar panel, where we invest 87 billion rupiah to build panel rooftop solar PV rooftop, and this is the biggest rooftop solar PV in a plant, the biggest one in the Southeast Asia region, and it contribute emission reduction by 80,000 80,000 ton CO2 equivalent per year. And our second rooftop solar panel is in Pasuruan with a capacity of 2.4 megawatt. And the middle is what you can see in our customers, the red refrigerator. Our initiative is try to find environmental friendly fridge where from 4 kilowatt hour now become 2 kilowatt hour, and we try to find fridge that use 1 kilowatt hour. So we try to find a more efficient electricity and also environmental friendly refrigerant. An investment of 550 billion rupiah that we built in Cikarang, Bekasi. This is a recycling facility, PET recycling facility. So 90% of our product portfolio is PET, and we have built a PET recycling facility with a capacity of 25,000 ton per year to recycle the PET. So if you drink 300 milliliters beverage, the bottle is come from recycled PET. So if we talk about challenges, perhaps some of the panelists already discussed about this, but for us, regulatory and policy uncertainty become one of the challenges to perform green investment from the private sector perspective. Second, market barriers. More about now, more about the electricity cost structures. It's not transparent, right? We don't know how the cost structure is. Now there is new renewable energy, fossil fuel entering the same grid, and for us that also impose one of the challenges. Second, about financing barriers, and this is echoed by other panelists. We see that the funding instrument is limited, high interest rate from the financing institution, and if there is green financing mechanism, the information is really concentrated, and so it's not broadly distributed in terms of the information. So parties would like to access, find difficulties to access and to get information. And the last one, from the renewable manufacturing industry, the local one, as mentioned by Mr. Lewis, so we need to develop more, so it can become more competitive from the price point of view. Now, to address these challenges, we internally, can we go to the next? There are two initiatives with regard to payment. First, we have internal carbon pricing. So at the moment, in every capital expenditure proposal, we attach a carbon price. So 100 euro per CO2 emission. So let's say financially, summary is not okay, but when we include that this may reduce carbon emission, then the project can become more viable. For example, in Amadina, they can produce 25,000 tons. If we convert, it may reduce carbon as much as 35,000 tons CO2 equivalent. And if they incorporate that, then their proposal will become more viable financially. And second, and I mentioned that our emission carbon is coming from the scope 3. So it is very important to engage the supplier. Now this year, we have conducted technical advice to our strategic supplier to make them committed to SBTI. And in addition to that, we also have this program giving incentive and awards to the supplier because improving their ESG factor and help in achieving net zero emission by 2040. So let's say they use SBTI methodology for emission performance. And echoing to the other panelists, using incentive and disincentive mechanism is very crucial to encourage all parties, both the private sector to invest in green investment. And also technology is developed and green financing opportunities should be open as broad as possible so that everyone can have the same and equal information so they can maximize the opportunity. I think that will be all from my side. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Iman. Let's give a round of applause.
So actually, there are so many activities behind Coca-Cola bottle that we drink, which relates to renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sustainability. The government also guarantee and who also drive the efficiency, and then there are some self-driven private sectors. Ibu Junianti Gunawan in Trisakti Sustainability Center has already seen that there are so many cases that can be seen. So what are the benefit and challenges of each companies, because they are different, and how it can be processed into an initiative of sustainability. And what about green productivity until green effect? So we don't, let's not make it as greenwashing. Thank you, Ibu Lisha. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us all. Let me check different perspective, because the only access that I have is from publicly information that I can get different from other gentlemen. You can get the information from your internal institution. One challenge, since this is benefit and challenge, I only got one word, one heavy word, which is change. With this challenge, I see that there are so many gaps. If see from the sustainability report, I see from publicly information available, the gap is very high. And if we talk about access that we can see from the report, the one that you mentioned is not captured all. So there are so many gaps. The basic changes in the initiative level, as I mentioned, it is very extraordinary. But if I can be honest, it is not internalized, not entered to the basic. So the change is still in the creating good image phase only. So the leader need good reputation, so it will create something like this. The easiest way is the sustainability governance in a company is not settled. When I talk about sustainable governance, how many have the sustainability director in Indonesia? It's just less. It's not more than 10% total that goes to the governance. I do not talk about committee because there are so many committee. But the one that include in the governance structure, including in our state-owned enterprises, none of them enter to the institution. So governance aspect is the most important thing. When we change, it is now. There's so many disruption, technology, and others. I believe that we can run a little bit juggling to follow this. Is it true that the performance of environment can also improve the performance of finance? From the academic perspective, all literacy shows that yes, there is the significant influence between environmental performance and financial performance. However, you have to take into account. Do not take assumption like that, because financial performance have so many factors. Of course, we cannot say that the case studies, even though in front of you there are so many case studies, some companies that I got here like City Development, Impact Pratama, CNP Niaga. So those are the figures and performance, and the environment is great with their own capacity, and the financial is also improving. But there are so many other factors. Medco Energy Indosemen are trying to change themselves through the industrial process to become green, and the revenue increase. So these cases show that in the other side, it is true that if the environmental performance is related to efficiency, the easy key is efficiency. Then we go to the financial performance. If not, then we need more analysis in other sectors. What is the challenge? Now, how's the system like? What is the standard? How's the infrastructure? How we can simplify the complexity that exists now? It is very complex. How we can overcome this? There are so many things that we need to do. First, the easiest way is to calculate the baseline of the use of our empathy internally. If there is no baseline, how we can calculate further, and how can we see that whether we are efficient or not. So I would like to tone down a little bit. If scope 3 is too difficult, then we go to scope 2 slowly, but don't do many things to replace everything without having a baseline. It's not that you cannot do that, you can, but you won't be miserable if you have the baseline. Next action, there are many actions that we should do. The most difficult one is being consistent. Commitment is many. Search our sustainable report. There are so many word commitment. Is this commitment or just a kind of words of mouth? But you're not consistent. Collaboration is important. We cannot work alone. If we talk about sustainability, our earth is only one. We live together. So our efforts should be together as well. There should be a partnership. Now, education. But based on my experience, when I did sustainability report regulation in 2012, and it was issued in 2017, the ones who joined the training were replaced by another person, keep changing. But in terms of governance, if there is no dedicated person who does that, then uh, then what about the socialization? Because you keep changing the person who joined the training. If we talk about ESG, everybody is busy talking about E. Don't forget there is the S, social aspect. And if we talk about ESG, it is not about making a new program. ESG, what is our program? While ESG is embedded with our daily activity in our industry. So what should we then? ESG should be measured. That's the key, to be measured. Ladies and gentlemen, from ESG, once again, if the governance is not touched, then it will be difficult to change. Then I read here, it creates urgency, whether or you like it or not. Soon we will have international financial reporting standard for sustainability. 1 January 2024, which is a few months from now. Internationally, it will be implemented. Indonesia hasn't implemented it. We still wait for it sometimes. With the IMFs of sustainability, whether we like it or not, all performance that relate to environment and social should be proxied with scenario whether or not it will be impacted to financial performance, including cash flow. What happens if we do not calculate that? It is impossible. Let's begin slowly. Let's do the baby step. It becomes some fear for some companies. Make it simple, but we do it now. Last, what about the challenge of carbonization and what should we do in the financial world? We have to do energy efficiency until the base. So there should be a change of behavior. That's number one. If there is no behavioral change, I believe that the renewable energy concept that you already set up will be wasted. So you've made the concept really difficult, but it is wasted. And we have to improve our green portfolio by doing mapping. We have the first version of green taxonomy. We will launch the second version. And also we are preparing the sustainable finance. So the changes are in front of our eyes. Are we gonna be silent or are we gonna change? Then it's up to you how we are going to deal with this issue. Let's discuss. Hopefully, there is something that become our take points. Thank you. Thank you, Ibu Juniati. I can summarize that first, if you want to do something, don't be afraid. You should take action. The most important thing is the execution. When we try to execute this, where should we start it? And it's quite scary. Apparently, there are so many first mover or early mover like Mr. Bobby and Coca-Cola who sees that this has commercial impact and there is community impact. Not only we have SNG, and Ibu Juniati also also emphasizes that we can measure it. We just don't come up with new programs. We we do not we can be creative, but without measurement, it will be such a waste. When we have to assess, we have to see whether there is the program that is guaranteed or not. Maybe we can where should we invest the money from the members? You see Teresico, and I would like to open the question to Mr. Bobby, Mr. Gatut, and Mr. Iwan and Pak Iman. When you implement an initiative in renewable energy and energy efficiency, what is actually the risk that we should see? Because that's the thing that should be managed. Let's begin from Mr. Bobby. When you begin to work in this industry first time, in preparing a business, definitely we do evaluation. The standard is SWOT analysis. Indonesia has some weaknesses. In terms of climate and transparency, recently it is already good, but legal certainty, legal support, and consistency, those points becomes a problem. But we have the opportunity. The opportunity is there, especially if we talk about green. We have potential from energy, transportation, infrastructure, housing, and even the packaging is already shifted to green. But where is the regulation? That's the most important thing to do. Let's say we have some projects until the national strategic program. All of a sudden, we will have general election. And there is new elected governor who said, oh yeah, I have better scheme. Easily, a planning or something that has been prepared is changed easily. That's the main risk. So consistency and legal problem. Risk is calculated by the investor, benefit and risk. Number two, in Indonesia, we are still concerned about the economic value, especially if we talk green. The economic value is not as interesting as if we deal it with palm oil and coal, which whose margin is very good now. So there should be compensation or incentive from the government so people can attract to invest. So in terms of risk and in terms of economy. Thank you. Mr. Gatut, how's the risk? when you have to develop the money that has been put in PT Papera. Mike, please. If we move in finance, especially in managing someone else's money, the money from the participant, as let alone managing the government's money, the first question is that if the money should be returned when it is invested. If this money has its own purpose, it has to be shown that the purpose can be achieved. Therefore, first thing that we have to see is the objective. The objective to use the fund. If we talk about investment, at the end, it's about using the fund. And if we talk about the fund, whose fund that we are going to use, what is his or her requirement? What is his or her demand? We are the participant of Bapera. I would like to return the same with deposit. So one that's one objective that I have to hold on. So if we use government's money, we have to be sure that even it is only 1 rupiah, it has to be returned. So don't let 1 rupiah unclear. With certain purpose and with the resources, we do this investment. So everything will be clear, especially the objective. What is the objective? How's the potential risk that might happen if we do investment and the fund before we use it for house financing to the to the low income community, we have to be prepared also about risk, because MBR is the community who has limited money. We help them by financing, so they will be able to have their first house. So we have to make a business model as such, so the risk can be measured. For example, we cooperate with the bank. So our risk goes to the bank. Bank who will cover the risk to the community who got low income. So since the bank cover the risk, we will sell the house cheap. The price of the risk that is handed over to the bank, so the bank needs benefit in terms of the low cost. So the risk concept will become part of the fund management process. Don't talk about zero risk. The most important thing is acceptable risk that can be mitigated, that can be managed. Even though the money is not returned, it should be clear what is the cost. Oh, because of disaster, the house is damaged. So the insurance doesn't want to cover. So the risk will come back to us, but it can be measured. We have a mandate to manage our participants' money. Indeed, they don't want to have a risk. They put the money in Tapera, and Tapera is managed with, if we wish, that it will be zero risk. We always analyze cost and benefit, risk, return, something like that. Thank you, Mr. Gatot. Even though the position is in, we have to see the mandate. What is the purpose of the money invested? Coca-Cola, what is top 3 risk? In every business proposal, as mentioned earlier, there is a summary that we need to be taken into account. So everything is covered there. There is a monitoring mechanism. There is post-implementation review, which we check every year after the project is approved. and then we review it regularly. What's the variety between business case and actual? For green investment, I have mentioned about the challenge, regulation and policy for us. The impact is that equal playing field, if I can say something like that. I'll give you an example. Uh, we have calculate we have calculated the available roof. Apparently, it is above what is permitted by the private sector. Automatically, it will disturb the approved proposal, and the side effect is the effect will touch our capital that has been invested. So we are trying to invest ourselves. We haven't take benefit from outside financing, and automatically it will be heavier. Like what Mr. Gatot mentioned, if there is a loan, then there should be a return. But fortunately for the risk, we minimize the risk. But again, there is no equal playing field. It costs the investment like this that is green is difficult for us, especially if we would like to add line of production. Thank you. Based on the risk, investors will see how can we reduce the risk. I believe Mr. Yuki received many proposals every day, and I believe the projects are big. From PT Penjaminan, from PII,